Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be updating on my Clash tier list for patch 13.12. If you enjoy my content, like and subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, there were a couple of top changes. These include Nasus, so I'm going to be bumping it up to the A tier. If you're going Triforce, this champ can be considered borderline S tier, but as a lot of people are still going Divine Cinderer, definitely avoid this build. Even in situations where this build looks like it's going to be better, it's usually not. Triforce is just so overwhelmingly stronger on this champion at the moment that you're just going to want to try and go into this every single game. Rumble, I'm going to move up to the B tier. Rumble is gaining win rate over time after his changes. You definitely want to itemize correctly though. Demonics is looking by far and away his best first option over things like Night Harvester and Protobelt. But yeah, if you itemize this champion correctly, he can be borderline A tier, but for the moment, I'm going to leave him in the B tier. Gragas' sustain took a big hit this patch. I'm going to drop him all the way from the A to the C tier. He's no longer just a autopilot win top laner. You actually have to be a bit more skillful about it, land your skill shots, and do a lot of damage through that to try and force them out of the lane before you're forced out of lane, as your sustain is a lot weaker. But overall, just performing a significant amount worse this patch. That I would avoid him for the most part. There are better top laners to pick. Varus is going to be added to the B tier. Varus is slowly gaining popularity in the top lane. Well, it kind of spiked mainly from Drew, but definitely here. He is a relatively decent champion. You can go things like Static, Nashers, things like this work quite nicely on him. It's usually just for full AP build, which we're seeing a decent amount of. Volley is going to be dropped back down to the C tier. Still not performing great in the top lane. Gets kind of bullied by a lot of champions in mid to late. He doesn't really have enough power to skirmish with them. He's more of a frontline dive tank, and as of the moment, he's just not strong enough to find a good foot in the meta. Moving on to the jungle, Rao is going to be added to the D tier. I don't believe I have her on here. She is not performing great after the nerfs from last patch. She did get micro patch to increase her clear speed, and she was definitely overpowered in the jungle for a bit, but now that she's been tapped back down, kind of performing at a D tier standard. Gragas is going to be moved down to the B tier. Even though the sustained nerfs were kind of aimed at solo lanes, Gragas took a bit of a hit in the jungle as well, so going to be moving him down a tier. A lot of changes in the jungle though, just like things like Rek'Sai, Ivan, both C tier champs, incredibly overpowered at the moment. Rek'Sai supports almost a 56% win rate. Her buffs were huge. Ivan, really powerful with the buffs he received and the changes. Daisy is now faster. The shield pop now refreshes. The shield now refreshes if you don't get the pop on the damage with it. And the on hit on his W also really valuable. So there's just a lot of power in this champion at the moment, even though he seemingly seems to break every champion in the game every so often. Kindred is going to be moving up to the S tier. Her micro patch buffs are definitely finding more of a footing at the moment. Triforce, Wits End Cleaver are really strong on her. Definitely consider her playing her. You do have to be good at this champion. If you play her and you don't know how to play her, you just sprint it down. Hecarim is going to be moving up to the A tier, borderline S. He's performing really well in the jungle at the moment. Things like Dustblade, Yomu's, Manamune, all really valuable items on him. Jack's going to be moving up to the B tier. We've seen it in Pro a couple of times now. I still don't like it as a pick. I think he's too greedy for items, and the value you get out of these items just aren't great. But if you can flex him into the jungle, then there is value in the pick. Volley is going to be moving up to the B tier. Volley is performing a lot better in the jungle than he is in the top lane. A lot more easier to pilot. You can get a lot more value out of his ult and his just ability to chase down and do a decent amount of burst damage. So Volley is going to be moving up to the B tier. There are a couple of other champions here which can be considered to move up, but there's not a huge amount of data for a lot of the lower tier ones, and things like Lee Sin, I'm not a huge fan of. They're really greedy junglers. If you can play them and you're good at them, then definitely consider them, but if you're not, I would avoid them. There is a lot of really overpowered things in the game at the moment. Middle lane, Rise is going to be moving up to the B tier. The buffs were really big for him. They were a partial Reaver on the nerfs, which kind of took him out of the meta. Corki is going to also be moving up to the C tier. The Triforce build is performing really well on him. He can go toe-to-toe with a couple of the mid laners at the moment. Talon is going to be moving up to the S tier. Talon is giga stomping games at the moment. Even though he is a solo queue pick, he is really strong with 2 build variations. You can go with a Gore Drink build variation, or you can go with the full Assassin build variation. Just a lot of power and being able to pick which one you want to go. One's really good for kind of sustaining and dealing with tanks. The other one really good for dealing with squishies. So there are options definitely here on the champ. Ezreal is going to be moving into the D tier. Not performing great in the mid lane at the moment. That mostly comes down to just random player skill. He can be considered CB, even A, if you're good at the champion, but I'd avoid him if you're not. You don't want to autopilot pick this champion. He is definitely still hard to play. Rumble is going to be moving down to the B tier, performing a lot worse as a mid laner. It wouldn't surprise me if they follow him up with a couple of buffs, even though his top win rate is kind of like 50% at the moment. His mid win rate is really not performing, and people still do playing mid. Moving on to ADC, Ashe is going to be moving up to the S tier. Definitely go Triforce. I see most people still go Kraken. Triforce is still the way to go. It's really, really powerful on Ashe. There is a lot of value to this item. It'll probably get nerfed next patch, but a lot of champs can abuse it quite well. Cog going to be moving down to the A tier. They always seem to just randomly nerf Cog more when he usually has to hold a decent win rate because he's a tank shredder and he's a late game scaler, and there's a lot of value in a pick like that, especially in solo queue. But he gets nerfed and tagged every so often, and then they're like, he's nowhere to be seen, and then they buff him, and then they know it's just a constant cycle. So yeah, Korg down to the A tier. Still a decent champion if you pair him with some of the enchanters, but just not performing anywhere near as strong as he used to be. Lucian going to be moving down to the B tier. The nerfs definitely did hurt him on his passive. He can pair with a couple more champions. Things like Nami are still really strong with him, but just not performing to the same level, especially after those passive nerfs. Zeri is going to be moving down to the D tier. Most people still itemize Triforce on her. She doesn't proc Sheen. Please stop doing it. It's not good. Definitely go something like a crate build. I'm pretty sure Kraken is her best item to go first at the moment. I could be wrong on that, but it's definitely not Triforce. I can tell you that much. Sheen doesn't work. Ezreal is going to be moving up to the S tier. Ezreal is performing really well at the moment with a lot of the marksman nerfs. Ezreal is definitely shining through. The the 280 buff he got not too long ago, definitely helping, but overall just performing a lot better as a champion. Things like Triforce also getting buffed really helps him. Samira going to be moving up to the A tier. Samira is really strong with Collector into Duskblade at the moment. The pairing is really strong on her. They are trying to fix the interaction with Samira's ult and Duskblade, I'm pretty sure. Once that goes through, then she'll probably drop back down to the B, maybe C tier. But as of the moment, she's performing quite well. She can work within a clash environment, especially in like plat diamond kind of lobbies where you can still snowball quite comfortably. Varus is going to be moving down to the B tier. Just not performing to the level of a couple of other champions here. He can go things like Nashor's, Static. Lethality isn't performing great, but there's also not a huge amount of sample size on it. I'm thinking Bork is his strongest first item. But yeah, you either want to go Bork or Static. Something akin to like Kaiser maybe, where you go Static first into Nashor's could be really strong. Moving on to support. For support, we are looking at a couple of changes here. Milio is no longer a Z tier champ. He is an A tier champ. Definitely got hit by the nerfs this patch. Losing the passive from 15 to 35% to 15 to 50% flat has really hurt the champion. A lot of champs really benefited from this. A champ which really benefited from this was Jhin with his really high AD amounts. Rare is going to be moving up to the Z tier. She is still really strong in the jungle, still really strong in the support role. Almost a 55% win rate and just crushing most games. Now that people have put time into playing her, it's definitely paying off. I wouldn't first time Rao, but she is definitely so strong that you could kind of put a couple games into her and then just play her, and she'll perform better than most engaged supports on this list. And Yuumi is dead. Yuumi's a D tier champion. 45% win rate or something. Got absolutely killed this patch. Good. I hate Yuumi. She's completely... she's hard to play against and hard to play with. I just don't want to see this champion. Should be deleted. Yeah. Overall, a couple of things I want to cover. In the support role, there's not a huge amount of changes. Some of these champs, like Ashe support got buffed this patch. It didn't really do anything because Mandate also got nerfed, and that was kind of the best thing to go. ADC role, I mean, Twitch still really good at the moment. MF kind of sleeper OP. Karthus always really strong, really powerful just in the bot lane. Center pairings all work quite nicely. Center is still really good with a couple of the items, things like Eclipse, Dustblade, and Youmuu's all work on her. Jhin, really powerful still. You can go things like Youmuu's Gale Force, especially with the Gale Force changes to AD. It still works quite nicely on him, even though it's nerfed for a lot of other champions. Nyla, kind of powerful at the moment, just not really. You just got to pick her pairings quite. Yeah, you just have to pick good pairings with her. Things like Taric work quite nicely on that front. Vayne, doing quite well. Look at the Triforce build or the static build, I'm pretty sure, when you're going Vayne. I don't think Ginsu's Rush is that viable at the moment. Yasuo performing a lot better as a marksman at the moment, or in the marksman role. He can compete with a lot of the ADCs, a lot of the changes towards the marksman items have definitely helped him. He can go things like Gale Force, BT, and there's a lot of value in that. So definitely consider that. A lot of the lower tier champs are usually because they're gated by pro play and they've been nerfed because of pro play. Things like Jinx, Lucian, Kalista, Aphelios, Zarya are all kind of gated by pro play. Sivir, with how easy she is, can be considered an A tier champ, but it's not holding a great win rate at the moment. Got adjusted last patch with the WAD ratio going up but losing a bit of base AD. So yeah, not enough to really push up a tier, but still not a bad champion. Not a huge amount to talk about in the mid lane. Azir definitely on the rise as a pick though. If you put a lot of games into him, he can be considered like an S tier champion, but you have to put a lot of time into learning Azir. Same goes for Cassante. The only reason I haven't put him in the D tier is because if you put a lot of games into this champion, he can be considered borderline A. You just need to put like 20 games or so into him. He is a really I consider like a steep learning curve. You can't first time as champ and just expect success. So yeah, definitely put a couple games into him if you're looking to play him within Clash. Overall, still a good tank. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.